You're still watching Joy News Prime. We want to get you updated on the day's business stories. And the Senior Minister Designate Yao Safumafo has confirmed the review of the Extended Credit Facility Agreement under the IMF. He gave the confirmation when he appeared before the Appointments Committee of Parliament for vetting. Yao Safumafo said the review has become necessary because the current conditions under the program squeezes the fiscal space that will not help the MPP's agenda.
It will certainly be reviewed. And there are two main reasons why the IMF program must be reviewed. I've already hinted one of the bosses of the IMF. Now, President Nana Akufo-Addo came out with a manifesto. And that manifesto, he needs fiscal space to move it. The current program literally squeezes all this fiscal space out. And therefore, from the point of view of the program of the NPP, the IMF program must be reviewed. Two, now the IMF program works along achieving targets. And the targets are set between the government and the IMF. So far, most of the targets have been missed. And therefore, whether we even ask for it or not, the IMF would themselves want the program reviewed. Because if we talked about ensuring that your growth end of the year is 5.3% and your growth end of the year is 3.3%, it's way out. If you want to talk about deficit being not more than 5%, and everybody thought deficit was about 5%, the figures I'm seeing from Bank of Ghana, deficit is getting between 8 and 9%. That is enough signal for the IMF itself to request for review, because you can't go on when you haven't met the targets. What going on with what? And therefore, the program will certainly be reviewed from two angles, from the targets angle and from our own need to factor in our manifesto and our objective in governance.
In other news tonight, power supply to some parts of the country could be disrupted badly in the coming days. This follows Tullow Oil's decision to start a second round of Jubilee Field shutdowns from early next month. George Afe has more in this report.
The shutdown is to allow Tullow lay pipes from the FPSO Tamils on the Chinibwa, Inyera and Tome 10 fields to the Atuabo gas processing plant. This would help the operators export gas from the 10 fields, whilst it shut down the Jubilee FPSO for maintenance works on the turret bearing. Since most of the country's generating plants at the Abuazi Thermal Enclave relies heavily on gas from Atuabo, the development could result in some serious challenges with power supply. So will this development result in some crisis? Alfred Agbame is communications manager at the Ghana National Gas Company.
There will be a challenge, no doubt. We will be unable to produce plain gas and the other associated gas products within a period. And it also means that there will be a challenge in terms of gas supply from our end. But I think the challenge now, however, is that a number of plants at the VRA side are also due for maintenance. But that information suggests that we're going to have some challenge, extra challenge.
For some, the disruptions with power supply could even start in the next few days, as Tullow on Wednesday night was forced to cut production on the Jubilee oil field. According to Tullow, it will take about 36 hours to fix the problem on the Jubilee oil field. Managers of the power sector had in the past argued that they have measures in place to deal with any shortfall in gas supplies to their generating plant.
Meanwhile, the Executive Secretary of the Kumasi Institute of Technology and Environment, Ishmael Ejekum-Hene, is not convinced about the assurance by managers of the energy sector that the situation is under control.
If we do buy the necessary crude and we have it in place, we should be able to keep the system running for the 3 months that we're going to have this plant shut down.
Anytime there's this announcement, those who are managing the generating space try to downplay the situation. Are you convinced by these assurances? I don't know the situation now. When they come down, there's no cause for alarm?
They do, because they always believe that they'll be giving money to buy fuel. Okay, and unless you don't have the generators in place. But if you do have the generators, then once you have crude and you order the product in time, then it shouldn't be a problem. So I believe that's where their optimism is always coming from. But then they start engaging the Ministry of Finance, because VRA in itself, these days, they don't have the capacity to go and buy the product themselves. Then they start talking to them, and then probably there are delays. That's how come sometimes they have shortage in fuel. But I think they are optimistic, because now we have reserve margins. We have enough plants that if we have fuel, we should be able to handle the situation. But my concern is that we need to be careful that we don't take the lines of least resistance, i.e., by saying that, okay, let's run Akosombo because we have some water in it during the intervening period. Because when we do that, we will be affecting the lake for the next subsequent years. So I would say that let's give them the benefit of the doubt, and I suspect that we'll be able to do that.
Well, how do we get around this problem? Because it has been said that the problem is a funding problem. Do you think that when we get the required money in place, our challenges would be over? Because in terms of capacity, we have it.
Now, if you have the money to be able to make sure that you have regular supply of fuel, they come at the right time, you make sure that all your plants are running or they are going through their scheduled maintenance, then we should be able to run the system. The problem, however, is that you still have the legacy debt that somebody has to deal with. For every passing day, VRAs, the interest that VRA has to be paying on their loans are going up. Last year alone, they paid up to 500 million Ghana cedis on only short-term loans. So there are two issues here. One is the recurrent expenditure, which they need to keep the system running. But the other one is the legacy debt of close to about $2 billion that we still haven't figured out how we're going to deal with.
And that's all in business tonight. The news returns after this short break.